Hey, it's Esther again, and I'm back for the 17th episode or thereabouts of Exploring Creativity, where I usually speak about a piece of my work for about 10 minutes, but I'm really fortunate today because I get to interview Rebecca Dolinsky, who has been painting up a storm these last few months. And she is going to share some of her pieces, some of her insight, some of her experience. Exploring creativity is always taking some time to look at what the creative path is that a creator is taking so that they can share that with you and you can stop thinking about all those things you don't feel like thinking about because there's so much other stuff to think about. Now, at this moment, I'm going to flip the camera around and I warn you, it might stop, especially if you're watching it as a recording. So just give it that little twig, forward. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to turn it over and we're going to be looking at Rebecca's art. And Rebecca, do you want to say hello?
Esther. Hi, good afternoon. I wrote something down for everyone, but since this is live, I'm just kind of winging it.
Okay.
I've been painting since I was a child, and lately what I've been doing is painting in a couple of different ways. I started painting imaginary portraits, and then from that, some friends asked me if I would paint their portraits. And so I've been going between something imagined and then something that stems from life drawing. And then recently I just even did something from a photograph. So I'm going to show you some of these works. If Esther shows you the studio, you see the studio wall? Well, actually,
which ones have you started with? Which ones were the first ones?
Show the studio wall first.
Okay, yeah.
I'd like you to see the studio wall because when I first came into this studio, I was painting on the wall, and so all those marks that you see are the marks of the edges of the paint. And first I was painting more in blacks and whites and pinks, and then I went and bought myself some fluo paint, so you're seeing all of that on the wall. After the wall, I ended up working more on a table because I had somebody sitting in a chair and I was looking at them. And I did even bring this crazy French easel into the studio, which of course I haven't used in about 30 years or something. But when my friend said that she wanted a portrait, and she said she wanted an oil on canvas, suddenly I thought, oh God, I've got to get the easel and the oil on the canvas. So you can kind of see here too, like brushes and paints, and maybe down here too, Esther, you see a lot of brushes and paints. And so how I began was just imagining. And what I want to say is that I studied a lot, and I paint both abstractly and figuratively. And I like to paint abstractly because when you're painting abstractly, the painting, it's just all about
Rebecca,
the painting.
I need to keep you close to
It's
me.
just all about the painting.
microphone.
It's all about formalism, and you make one mark and then it calls for another mark, and you're really just looking. But right now, what Esther is showing you...
Might we... Yeah, tell us about
this
creature.
About this.
This amazing,
okay. I'm going to tell you about this.
blue-eyed damsel.
This has something to do with the fact that the feminist critics talk about the male gaze. And the male gaze is basically that in the history of art, when you go to the museums, there are all the nudes, all the naked women are lying there, and the men, who were mainly in the public looking at them, were staring at them. But this painting is basically saying, you may be looking at me, but I am looking back at you. I see you. You're gazing at me. I'm gazing right back. I'm staring at you. And this whole series, because I often paint in series, has to do with that.
Well, let's put it down so that the light is better from the window.
This one is saying, you may be looking at me, but I'm reclaiming the gaze. I'm hiding behind my glasses, but I see you.
We see the eye behind the glasses.
Yeah, the eyes are
too.
behind the glasses. I can see you. I see you. And you'll see there are a couple of others, Esther. This one where she has the dark
why the glasses?
Because it's, instead of it being, I know you're looking at me, but maybe I don't want to be looked at, or maybe I'm looking too. And so these all came out of that series, and they were done in a series. And quite often what I do is I make not exactly monotypes, but I paint one painting and then I print it and then I repaint into it. So these two, for instance, are an example of that kind of process. You can see how they're related. You can see how I painted one and printed it off the other, but then I repainted into it. And
so which one is the first?
Yeah,
if we get it down to light.
Yeah, that's better. A good question. At this point,
you don't know?
It may be this one was first, and then I printed it, and then I repainted it. So it's not exactly a monotype. But these two, in any case, I lived in Mexico. I lived in Mexico for a few months. I was invited by some Mexican painters, and I was in Oaxaca, and I loved all the dancing and the women with their flowers in their hair. So these two look to me also a little bit like Spain, like they're getting ready to dance the flamenco. Whereas this one actually, Esther.
Wow! What's happening?
What's happening with her is that she reminds me very much of Viennese painting. She reminds me of Klimt and Sheila, and these blocks remind me of that. And that's where you see some kind of abstraction coming into my work, because you have to kind of sacrifice the painting at a certain point. And I guess it wasn't working exactly, and I just started coming in with these marks, and I put them everywhere.
If we put it down, because right now it shakes a little bit.
I'm sorry.
We're going to put it down. No, don't be sorry. It's beautiful. Look at what's happening on the neck.
Thank you.
And the way the white comes and shapes everything around. Look at that neck. It's crazy. What's happening there?
I don't know. But,
and
painting is a lot about making marks. These are repetitive marks that are happening. And so I was making all these series of portrait heads of women, and then I got my fluo paint, my fluorescent paint, and this is completely different.
Okay, let's bring it right into the sun to really get you, because you've got all this pink and blue pastel,
so
and then
fluo paint is incredible. It's wild.
Wait, at this moment I have to show the scarf. Yes.
Right. Well, this is made by my friend Mette Willier for Jean Willier.
Yes.
And she designed the fabric, and it's fabulous. And she's always wearing things that are fluo, and so
she's got that beautiful Danish style.
Yeah, so it came into my work.
Love the metal.
This is kind of fun because I studied with a lot of people who had studied with Hans Hofmann, and Hofmann is all about planes moving in space and colors, and this one does do that. Formally, for instance, I carved into it here to make the stripes. I carved into it somewhat here. I like Matisse, obviously, and it does kind of show. Anyway, this one is fun. It's a different kind of fun than the others.
Was this done before
no,
or
this
after,
was done after.
the
I got the fluo paint after. As a matter of fact, I'll show you some more that are fluo. I think I'm going to put these away, and I'll explain something else. So for a while I was doing these women, and I would put up, say, 6 different pieces of paper on my wall and paint them all kind of simultaneously. Like, Esther, if you show those paintings on the back wall.
Should we move on to the, you
I
want to move to the,
I want to come back to you, but if you show the ones on the back, here, we can go there for a minute. Come, let's go over here for a minute and you'll see. This kind of gives you an idea of how I work in series. And these were actually not done from imagination, they were done from life, because a friend of mine came and posed for me, and so you could see a difference between the way these were made and the others were made. These two don't look so much like her, but they're more paintings, whereas the other ones, in some ways, I was trying to make look like her. So then it's a balance between making something look like somebody and then making it actually be a good painting. This, by the way, is a sketch of Mette down in the corner there, who is the woman who made the scarf, who is just unbelievably beautiful and is constantly fluo. Anyway, to explain how I'm doing something which is kind of like a monotype, but painted into a monotype, there are these two paintings, and it was right before Christmas, and I was really feeling the lockdown when I was thinking about childhood and how I would have, at that point, maybe gone to the ballet or to an opera, something, and thinking about the theater. And so I made these.
Do you know which one you made first, or is it again that trick question? Or they just go back and forth like a tennis
sometimes
game.
they go back and forth, but this, I obviously painted the paper blue before I started. And then I'm thinking, maybe I painted this one because this one looks like it's, some of these lines are more like from printing. You see, those are more like from printing.
Yeah,
That's more like from painting. But then I painted back into it, and then I also sort of carved out her face with the end of my paintbrush with the...
Beautiful.
Yeah, I did that. You know, the Impressionists and other painters, you'll see they suddenly realize that faces could be blue or green, and it is true that when the lights are on someone in the theater,
or the Toulouse-Lautrec.
Exactly, they look green. Like that.
So you're gonna.
I just wanted to explain that in terms of how I would work in series, because when you see the marks on the wall, you see how I would put maybe 6 up at a time and think about them simultaneously. But
choo-choo. Okay.
But then what I wanted to explain is that a friend came in and said, "Oh, will you paint my portrait?" And so I began making portraits of friends, asking them to sit for me for about an hour and a half or so. And this is the first one that I made. This is my friend Married Yes. And I made a lot of her over the course of an hour and a half, 2 hours. This one is the one that looks the most like her. But there were, once again, a whole series of different attempts to make something that was a painting, but also something that, you know, looks like her. And then what happened
and here comes the fluo.
Yeah, here's the fluo, because actually what happened was, and this is actually my most favorite fluo.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Of her. Which...
That's got a lot of things happening.
It has a lot of things happening.
It's got the red and the green contrasting.
Yeah.
It's got the lines. It's got the print.
Yeah, so that was printed. But before I did the printing, I made these, this is an oil painting. So you can understand that oil painting came out of this drawing. You see, I had that drawing, and I made this oil painting. And I made other oil paintings of her too, because I was trying, and since she was the first person to sit for me, I kept going with it. She's very charming, and I just kept going with it. These are oil. These are in oil, and they're all sort of different ways of thinking about her. And I often think about turning these into much larger portraits, like portrait collages, and adding bodies and all of that. But for the time being, they're just...
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
They're
these heads.
Let's see, look at how that washes. It's almost like a wash. This is oil?
This is oil.
Yeah. Well, look at that. It's almost like the, what is it? Dumas. What's her name? Marguerite Dumas? No, c'est pas It's, I'm spacing on her name. All those Dumas. I think it is Marguerite Dumas, the painter, who does those wash faces.
I don't know. Maybe you know somebody I don't know. And that's also Married Yes and another attempting. It's not so easy, you know. If you go to
look at the way you've used orange on there.
If you're painting...
Wait, let's look at the orange for a second. Not to stop you, but look at the way you put orange there.
Yeah, because the orange
dot on the lip.
Underneath.
That orange there.
It was, it was underneath.
Look at those crazy touches of orange you've put in. Wow. And the way the ear just like clicks it right back into this. Wow. It's very beautiful, that.
This does not look like Married Yes, by the way. That's not Married Yes. That was invented.
Married Yes isn't here.
Yeah,
so,
you know. Yes is not here. Okay, well, anyway. So those were there was her. And then once I painted her, I said to other friends, you know, if you want to come in, I'll draw from you and maybe I can do something. This one...
I'm going to move around here.
Right, so this
for
is...
the light.
This
for
is
the good light.
I think it looks
Ivana. Send us some hearts, Ivana. We need hearts.
That's Ivana. I think
click on your hearts for Ivana.
It really does. I really am very happy with that.
Yeah. Look at that regard. Look at her looking. with that
So
weight and solidity. And
it's very special to have someone come in.
wow, the
and
depth of regard.
Pose. It's very special because, especially with the lockdown and the coronavirus, we have so little time together that it's very spiritual having somebody for
We
an
should
hour and an hour and a
probably
half.
let them know also, Ivana is someone, she's a photographer, and she takes pictures like crazy of everyone all over the place. She always has the camera, she's clicking at this, that, and the other thing, and this depth of regard is so impressive because she's a photographer, and those eyes are constantly looking and seeing. That's wonderful how you got that, Rebecca.
And I just thought I would bring this because this is another friend.
Let's see
and
this.
this is actually the last thing that I did this on Saturday morning. But I did this from a photograph, actually. I think it looks very 1920s. I mean, there's the thing about Paris and Paris in the 20s that we all love. And this has a very different look to it than the other paintings that I made from imagination or from life. So I did want to point out kind of the difference between drawing from painting from imagination, painting from life, and then here from a photograph. Because we know that that the photorealists in the 70s started painting from photographs. Audrey Flack, who I grew up with, was painting from photographs because she didn't have models who would, sit long enough and still. And I like this painting a lot, actually.
Yeah, look at the way that what you've done with the light, the chiaroscuro of it, like the light just carved on here.
Yeah, I want to do more of this.
Creating these planes, these like colored planes that just model across her.
I know. I thought if I had made this in the 1920s, do we think that Gertrude Stein would have wanted it in her salon? But Gertrude Stein, she never even talked. She didn't talk to the women. She just talked to the men.
Well, what she's missing out, ladies
so
missing
she
out.
talk to us. Let's see. This is something totally different. Maybe we should end with this.
Okay.
These are kind of massive nudes that were painted in gold paint. A series.
Let's see what we've got here. Was this done recently? Is this done
was
a while
done
ago?
a while ago. I mean, these were done. Actually, that one I like. I mean, I like all the others, but this has something massive about it. Something
It's
sculptural about
a
it.
Henry Moore.
It does look like Henry Moore, and the stripes and the carving into it and around it. And, painting, it's a lot about figuring out. I mean, if it's figurative, it's the figure in space. If it's abstraction, it's the abstract in space. But this has a lot of formalist concerns, and the negative shapes are as important as the positive shapes. And that's what I wanted to say, is that a lot of the great painters who painted figuratively also painted abstractly, from Mondrian to Pollock and de Kooning. They painted figuratively and then they painted abstractly. Gorky, who I love, made beautiful figurative paintings, beautiful abstract paintings. So a lot of it has to do with just paint and the beauty of painting and kind of knowing how to make a picture. And sometimes, if with the portraits, what's a little complicated is if I'm trying to make something that is going to look like the friend, then maybe what I have to do eventually is like sacrifice something to make a good picture, because you do want to make a good picture, and that involves other concerns. But I did want to say that from the time I was a little girl, really little girl, I've been painting, and I remember I went to the Museum of Modern Art for classes when I don't know if I was 6 years old or something, and I have memories of that. And the first painting that I still have is, it's Alice in Wonderland, and she's chasing after the white rabbit, and the white rabbit has his pocket watch, and he's looking at the pocket watch, and I think, was I concerned about time when I was in kindergarten. But I do feel better when I get a chance to paint, because if you're a painter, you know, one mark makes another mark makes another mark, the way
Which is why there's a series
a
and
mathematician
series.
is going to make an equation, or a chess player is going to make a move. And it's like breathing. When I get to do it, I feel better. And when I don't paint, then I feel a certain kind of anxiety. And what is interesting is whenever I do paint, whatever I make is recognizably mine, but of course I never know what it's going to look like until I make it. So there's always a sense of surprise and discovery, even for the painter.
That's great.
Thank you, Esther.
No, Rebecca, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing everything. And I'm going to sign off
We're
and
in
say goodbye.
Paris.
We are in Paris.
We're in Paris. Of course, the
Actually,
capital,
yeah,
the art
do
world
like this.
capital, moved from Paris to New York. We all know that, but Paris
Like
is
that.
still an extraordinary
here.
place.
We're in Paris.
We're in Paris.
We're doing the art.
We're doing the
We're
art.
with the art. We're in oh my God, we're dangerously
And we
close.
are also.
We are not masked, and we are close.
And we are also, just
yes.
opposite the newest museum that's going to open, which is the Pinot collection in the old Bourse de Commerce, in the old commodities market.
Yeah.
And there's a flag there. It
There's
doesn't
art
say
everywhere
when it's
in
opening,
Paris.
because we don't know when it's going to be able to open, but it will.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap up.
Thank you.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye, and
Send
thank you for your
kisses.
thank you for your visit.
Kisses.
Great to see you.
You take it easy and stay healthy.
Bye.
Stay calm.
Follow Esther. She's the best.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for the support. And we'll see you.
See you next
again
time
on Exploring Creativity. Take it easy. Lots of love. Bye.